What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your week in review for July 27th, 2020. This is a busy week, but before we get into it, if this is your first week in review is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news and things that they talk about that week, pile them into one video, and then insert my opinions into it as well. So if you guys do enjoy this, make sure you put a like on the video. That really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. And leave a comment below for anything that you guys feel like commenting about that we talk about today. All right, so jumping right into it, we have patch notes updates. We got 3 patches this week. 3.10N is what we're going to start with, where they fixed the 100% throttle bug. This was kind of a problem where you were either full throttle or no throttle. It was very difficult to deal with for a little while there. They also fixed the weird scanning flicker bug that when you were trying to mine, you couldn't really do it because it was constantly going in and out of scanning mode. It was very weird. And then transitioning from EVA shouldn't kill us that often. So that's really just bug fixes at this point, because this is kind of the stage of the PTU that we're in. The next patch is very similar, patch O, where they did a balance patch for the mass drivers, which they really didn't do. They're still very overpowered, and apparently they nerfed Singes as well, but I haven't tested these out. And then finally, 3.10P. This is a big one. They added all of the 3.9 ships, and those were the ships that were sold for real money in 3.9, the Cutlass Blue and the Asperia Prowler, to the ship shops available for purchasing game. I don't think there's a single ship that is flyable, that isn't extremely limited, that isn't in the game right now. There might be some Reliant variants that I don't think are in yet. I will check that out this week, but that is really big. It gives you something to work towards. Is there a specific ship you want to try? You basically have the whole library to yourself now. They also did a ton of keybind changes, which is very frustrating, and they increased rotational jerk on the ships, and this should make them a little bit more snappy, and it really does feel that way. Moving on to roadmap updates. Roadmap Roundup. This is a tough one. Orison moved to 2021. That means Crusader, the gas giant, is not going to be in 2020. That means we will not finish the Stanton system in 2020. This is rough. Full 8 years, and we're not out of one system yet. That is a difficult one to swallow. That's a big pill to swallow. But it's going to be split between Q1 and Q2. And they basically argued that each landing zone is a significant improvement over the last. They want it to be really good, so on and so forth. I'm not buying this, okay? It's very clear that they need server meshing to get this in. Server meshing isn't done, and it's not going to be done this year, and this tells you that. That server meshing will be done Q1 2021. There you go, right? And they just can't add more locations, especially not a big city. It's just that simple. The next thing was refinery decks. They moved from 3.11 to 3.12. This is going to take a little more time to get these going, and for me, this is a good thing. They're actually adding real refinery mechanics at the end of the year for us. That's kind of a big deal. It's the first sort of involved manipulation or crafting that we're going to be doing as players, and yeah, I'm really excited to see where these decks go, and I'm very happy that they're not just coming in as a visual improvement to something, and that they will be really functional. That's very cool. 3.11, they added a card to the roadmap, and that is ground cover buoyancy, which is like more of a visual update to water where you can have things float on it. A lot of people are kind of memeing about that one, but whatever. What are environment artists supposed to do right now? If they can't make much, they can improve what they have, right? They added some things to 3.12. Mystery armor. I think a lot of people are speculating what this is. Some people are maybe speculating the Titan suit. I don't know. They have to do something big at CitizenCon. Maybe it's a Titan suit. We'll have to see. They also touched on station-based refining. So we did touch on this earlier, but you're basically going to bring ore to a refinery, and you're going to turn that raw material into refined material, and it's going to be worth a whole lot more. What we don't know is are you able to pick that up with a cargo ship? So are we able to transfer mined material into cargo, which should be kind of cool. Then they did weapon zeroing. This is one that I think a lot of people are like, what the hell? We can't even see a player past 250 meters in the game, so what is the point of weapon zeroing? Well, maybe the fact that weapon zeroing is 6 months away. I don't think the actual zeroing of weapons is that difficult. I think it's the whatever they're doing so we can see players farther away is something that they're waiting on. Crossing my fingers on this one, because for FPS players, this isn't the experience that we want. It's not. And then the multi-tool tractor beam coming into 3.12, very, very cool. This ties into picking up things that are a little bit too heavy for you. Ship components, big boxes, things like that. Very, very exciting for that stuff in the future. Then moving on to video updates, we had a discussable ISC and SCL this week. Very exciting. We're going to start out with the ISC, where they start out with branding. They started talking about branding in the game, and it's something not really anything meaty that we want to discuss until a little bit later in the video. But they do touch on how this affects our FPS weapons and the way we play altogether.
And you're essentially trying to pick this point on the triangle, and whichever direction you go in, it comes at the cost of two other things. So when we're talking about manufacturers for consistency, we want to make sure that they have their own identity, and that's where the same balance triangle comes in. So the 3 points that we chose for our weapons that made the most sense to us were power, which generally translates into the amount of damage it puts out per shot. Speed, which just translates mostly to rate of fire and how fast it can get bullets down range, and range as well. So essentially how steady the weapon is in the hand, if it loses much energy over time as it travels, and essentially if something is skewed towards range, then obviously it can fire more effectively at longer ranges.
I think this is pretty cool. I like the idea of the triangle and that some weapons and companies will fit in a certain area. And I wonder if what will happen is we'll start to find a brand that we prefer over others for certain types of weapons. Should be pretty cool. Then we had Ninetales characters, and these are, I think they're going to be kind of controversial.
They could be something like, let's say, Ninetales Outlaw Pack. If you see a Ninetales symbol on a ship or on a piece of armor or even spray painted on the wall in a location, that may tell you to either avoid that area or head on in, depending upon whether you're friends with that group or you're enemies with it.
Okay, right away, I know everyone's going to say CIG is stealing from Cyberpunk, but these colors have been around for a long time. They've been on the Ninetales ships since day one, pretty much, and it looks really cool. I like them. I'm looking forward to seeing these characters in game. It's going to make our game look cooler. That's it. Reasons for the brand. So they talk about why we have so many brands in Star Citizen, and I think this is pretty cool, and I like the ending of this feature.
And we're going into this level of detail because it really will enrich in the game, make it feel more alive and lived in. It'll help provide context and color. It'll deepen the history to help explain how we have gone from here to there. So by doing this, we hope to make the world more familiar and relatable to players, and just in general more immersive. Because really, what's more immersive than seeing brands everywhere you look?
I think all this stuff is pretty obvious, but honestly, this is what this feature was all about, and I felt like if we didn't touch on it, I wouldn't be doing the weekly update a service to you guys. So that is why there's so many brands in the game, and that's why Star Citizen has a pretty cool universe to play in. Then we had the sprint report, my favorite part, every 2 weeks. And they start out with the fact that they have 4 brands. Spearfish, it's an EMP company. Rook is metals for the UEE military. Galavan is a Whitley's Guide. They're the magazine that makes the Whitley's Guide. And Navy Surplus for the retired Navy. Then they touch on building blocks getting drop-down menus. This is pretty exciting, so they're going to be able to do a lot more in a much smaller space. And then drag and drop sorting is being more shown, but I think you really want to hear this part.
Work also continues on the layout transitions and drag reordering functionality that will serve as the basis for managing players' physicalized inventory when that's scheduled to come online later this year. And after seeing the prototype iterate, there's also been some discussion about other systems this tech might also be used for. Now, who wants to take some guesses as to what?
Okay, so the later this year thing implies a lot. So for For one, it means iCache is on pace to complete this year. And we may be looting NPCs and players this year properly. That's very exciting. I mean, I really hope we're not just grabbing fruit off of a tree or picking up poop in a cave, and that's what we're putting in our ship or our backpack inventories. So, that's very exciting. And what do you think Jared's talking about like the other applications for this? For me, I think it's just like cargo boxes and ships, something like that. Then we move on to, they showed a little bit more of the gas cloud tech for the PU and adding it to the Lagrange points possibly. And they said there will be a fair number of new gameplay. What do you think this means? They said the word explore kind of big there. So like, is this going to be their idea of exploration? It's kind of weird, but okay. Then they showed cargo decks a little bit more. Again, player-to-player trading was mentioned here, so that's kind of cool. And then finally, this was a huge one. They showed the Connie Taurus. I know a lot of people are waiting for that, but more importantly, they showed the P-52 Merlin docking to a constellation and the little things that they're doing to try and get that working. And it's, they said it's still a ways away, but this is a huge step towards it. Then moving on to SCL, we're jumping right into this one. So they start out with the question, why are ships slow in atmosphere?
They aren't designed to be super fast in atmosphere. Ultimately, we'll make them go whatever speed makes sense for the game. And I'm not going to put an exact speed on that because there is just a huge variety of scenarios. All the planets have different gravity, different atmosphere. It varies like real life depending on how close you are to sea level. You go faster the higher you are in atmosphere.
Okay, this clip cuts out a ton of context, but I did it on purpose. I really want you to focus on the fact that he said we'll adjust for whatever's best for the game. So like, these obviously aren't final. If they feel we need to go faster, we will, and that'll be a good thing. Now, that may not fall in line with what you think is best for the game, but it is important to note this because the more stuff like this they do, the more I feel like we're getting away from like trying to make this a game and trying to make this a weird simulator experience that honestly isn't really that fun. So I'm glad they say things like this, that they're still very focused on it being a game and being fun. It's always important to hear those things because sometimes we feel like they're not saying them, but they do. Also, the higher up you go, the faster you're going to go. So, if you're going to dogfight, most dogfights also happen probably a little bit higher in atmosphere, right? So, yeah, maybe you'll just have more fun at the proper altitude. So we'll just have to see how that goes. Then what's next for building blocks? This is another question really created this clip, but this is the meat of the answer for it.
So right now the team's focusing on Star Map first, and then we'll go to Mobiglass.
It's currently being transitioned, maybe for Quantum and Quanta, maybe. This is long overdue, as it's been pretty difficult to read, and I'm looking forward to getting any additional functionality from it. Next is the Mobiglass, which rocks also. So when we get the Mobiglass looking nice, feeling nice, working nice, that'll be really great as well. Then they touched on the new targeting system that is pretty polarizing.
There's been so many options to try and sort of a limited amount of time to try the different combinations. But I think what we've got now is a pretty good mix of being able to look and lock and pin targets. So if you've got track IR or you're just using head look, you've got the ability to look at a target, lock it, pin it, or you can just use cycling, and that cycling does work for both everything on screen and around you.
The fact that they have a more hybrid system from what they started with in the PTU is now nice. A less in-your-face kind of pre-lock system that we had in 3.9 and earlier, but like he said, they're trying out so many different ways to do this, so we'll likely see more changes to this in the near future. And then people asked, why is 3.10 so late?
I don't think there's any work from home issues. I think after, probably, let's say the first month, everybody was kind of in the groove of what we needed to do. There were definitely certain aspects that took a little bit longer to get right. Targeting restricted zones are two of them. What happens is that basically we'll be working on a build, and then all of a sudden, we get that build ready for Evocati. We get it out there, and then there's crashes or there's deadlocks or there's a lot of stuff that basically is keeping us from actually getting proper feedback. And so once we get those things stable and we get, a more stable build, then that actually allows us to really start seeing those features and the positives and negatives of those features. So, with targeting and restricted zones, like, we want to make sure targeting is right. It's a very, very important part of the game. So, and we want to make sure that we supported the team and that was working on it, and we gave them as much time as they needed to get it right.
And I think all of us would rather spend the extra time making it right than just shoving it out and going, oh, it's the date, so.
Okay, that was a long one. I tried to break it down as much as I could, but I love this answer. These features needed more time, and that's why it was late. Evo wasn't stable, and they took a long time to get feedback for the ability to go to Wave 1, and that's why it was late. And they would rather give it more time than push things out another quarter, because the devs would still be working on it the same way they are now. I'd rather them take a little bit more time and be a month late than get something that's absolute trash. And I don't know what you guys think, but these sticking to the solid dates thing can be frustrating for a content creator. But as a player, I just want a fun game to play, Then lastly, they touch on, will there be a wipe for 3.10?
We're still talking about it. If we do it, I think it'll probably be for everyone. But there's always considerations of, what we'll do, as far as wiping. Is there exploit or something like that, we have? And right now we do have an exploit on PTU that we're fixing. But nothing that I can confirm at this moment, just because we're still on Wave 1, and once we get to Wave 2, Wave 3, Wave 4, we'll basically start, really talking about this. But right now, I don't. We'll wait to see.
This is a little bit of a yikes. I'm weird. I'm sort of hoping we do, and I'm also hoping we don't. So I'm not sure what I want. I kind of want both. It's a weird situation. But before we head on to other updates, we'll do a little quick hits that we didn't actually highlight. So splines should be easier to see, and their tolerance should be higher when leaving and entering planetary space stations, or I guess landing stations. Icons are on the spline first now, not the landing pad, so you know where to look to find them. Winded hangers are an issue, and they're working on a fix. Vanguard got a bump back up from its horrible maneuverability earlier in the patch. It just wasn't that great at handling. More planned. They're planning more for getting us closer in combat. So high-speed combat changes that came into 3.10 just don't seem that effective right now, and they will be more effective with the things that they do in the future. Flares should be working, and they're going to try and get a temporary fix in for chaff. But obviously, there's still no solution for cross-section missiles. We will have to warm up ships at some point. This isn't a 3.10 thing. Ships will overheat faster in hot planets and atmospheres as well in later patches. And lastly, you'll be able to swap the thruster sets from the M50. So there's like circular ones and there's not so circular ones now. Eventually you'll be able to swap these since they sold it with that original look. And now moving on to other updates. There was a sneak peek this week. It looks like I think it was labeled as a laser repeater. I don't know, honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know what's on the roadmap for that. There was a post about packet loss earlier in the Wave 1 cycle. It was really, really bad, and they're trying to nail down that issue and resolve the problems with that. If you live in Norway, unfortunately, you are going to get hit with VAT taxes now, so be prepared for that. I think it was on August 1st. Feedback post for targeting. There is a feedback post. Targeting is the most drastic shift they made in 3.10, so I highly suggest providing your feedback there. And there was a lore post about the presidential elections. And then lastly, they made a little cookbook for you guys from the Alien Week update. So guys, that'll do it for this week. Once again, hit the like button. That's been really helping us with the YouTube algorithm. Leave a comment below on anything that we shared today, and subscribe for more weeks in review. And if you haven't yet, consider checking out my Twitch channel. I stream every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys. And yeah, I really hope you guys are enjoying the stuff. We hit 10,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel before I started this video today, and it puts a big smile on my face. So thank you so much for that, guys. I'm really, really proud, and I'm really happy that you guys are enjoying the videos. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great week, and I'll see you guys next week.